Here's a function that searches for videos, but as you can see, it has collected quite a few parameters over time. And that's normal that it happens. As your code evolves, you're going to add features, you're going to add some parameters here and there, and then you end up with a monstrosity like this. Unfortunately, if you don't solve these things, then it makes your code really hard to understand. And often, to make things worse, a group of parameters like you have right here starts to spread everywhere. And that's also what you see in this code, because a validate search has that same number of parameters, or almost the same. A function to get a cache key also needs all of these parameters. We have a build search query function that needs them, etc., etc. So today I'll show you how to fix this with the parameter object pattern. But I'll also talk about when not to use this pattern, because it can introduce another problem. And as a bonus, I'll show you a really neat Python feature that works very well with this pattern. Now, patterns like this are only useful if you understand why they work and when they stop working. And that's exactly what I focus on in Software Design Mastery. This is not just a course about patterns and principles, it's a complete program for understanding software design fundamentals and learning how to make better architectural decisions while AI helps you write the actual code. If you want to learn more, join the waiting list at ArjanCodes/mastery. The link is also in the video description. Now, in this example, as you can see, users can search videos by text, category, upload date, duration, region, a bunch of other things. And as you can see, the same cluster of data appears in lots of other functions as well. We have validation, we have caching, we have query building, search tracking, etc., etc. And things get even more confusing when you call the search videos function with all of these arguments, and we have no idea what is what anymore. Now, you might say, well, you can solve that by using keyword arguments. So you would write here query equals. So now that we know that this is a query, and then basically after doing all of that, you're going to end up with something like this, which is way easier to read. Sure, but the issue here is that keyword arguments don't solve the underlying design problem. Each of these functions that you have here still requires a slightly different version of essentially the same group of parameters. And if you want to add yet another option to search videos, well, you're also going to need to add it probably to all of these other functions as well. And that makes your code really hard to work with. Now, you can try to split up the functions more, reduce their responsibilities. Often that also helps quite a bit in solving these problems. But I want to show you another way to solve it today, and that is by introducing a new concept in your code. Especially if you have this kind of problem happening in your code where you feel like you have the same data that you're passing around all the time. Actually, it makes sense to group that data and turn it into a class. What you can do in this case is actually take all of these arguments and turn it into a search query object. So let's create a data class. And then let's create a video search query, like so. And we're going to put all of these arguments in there, like so. And now this is going to dramatically simplify our workflow, because now in search videos, instead of passing around all of this raw data, we can simply define a video search query here as an argument. And we can do the same thing for all of the other functions as well. For example, build search query. I can simply specify the query like so. And then I just update the body of the function like so. Now you might wonder, can't you directly map the names of the fields here to the dictionary values? Well, on some level you can, but as you can see, there are sometimes a few differences. Like here, we need to normalize the region. Here it's called max result, and here it's called limit, and you don't always have control over these things. So that's why I left it in here. But because I now pass a query instead of all that data, it means when I call the function, I don't need to do all of this work anymore. And this now looks way cleaner and way simpler. It also makes this function a lot easier to read. All of that happened because we introduced a new concept. And if you introduce a new concept, it means you can do other things as well. For example, here we have a validation of this particular search query and have to do it explicitly in the search videos function, well, instead of calling that function here, you can also take that validation logic now and make it part of the query object. So here we have the validation code. Of course, in real life, maybe that's more extensive than what I have here. But what you could do now is we can define a post init method. So that's basically the method that's called when VideoSearchQuery is created. And it's called only once. The data class is frozen, so you can't change it afterwards. And this is where we can put all of that validation logic. Like so. So that essentially means that once we have a VideoSearchQuery object, we also know that it's valid because it takes care of its own validation. And that means search video becomes shorter because I don't need to do this work anymore. And of course, the validation function is also no longer needed, like so. Now there's more things we can do now that we have an object. For example, there's a getCacheKey function here, but that could also be something that is a nice property that we can add to the search query. And that means we can copy the getCacheKey body that I have right here and put it in the property like so. There we go. And that simplifies search videos even more because now I can remove all of this code. I can simply get the cache results from query.cachekey like so. In the end, when you do all these modifications, you end up with a search videos function that looks much smaller and is much easier to reason about. Now, the nice thing is that once we've created this extra concept, the video search query in this case, it means if we add more fields, we don't have to change the code everywhere. We can simply do that in our query object and then only deal with it when we actually need it. So for example, let's say we also want to make a filter on adult video search, right? So that's going to be a Boolean value, and default that's going to be false. So now suddenly I can deal with adult content in my script with just a single line of code. It's so easy. And essentially the only thing that I need to do is whenever I need to deal with actual adult content, for example, maybe I want to add it to my cache key, right? That makes a lot of sense. But when you look at the search videos function, it doesn't need to know that it deals with adult videos because it simply does the orchestration of building the query, executing the search, etc., etc. So it makes it much easier to work with the code in this way. Now, a parameter object is not always the right fix. Before you introduce an object like the video search query in this case, you have to ask yourself, why does the function need all of these values? For example, in search videos, it makes sense that it gets all of these arguments because it needs an actual query to perform. But you might be tempted to go to some of these smaller functions and say, well, we have a normalized region. Well, we could also pass, let's say, the entire query there. Like so, and then it becomes like this. It seems pretty harmless if you look at it this way, but the problem that you now introduce is called stamp coupling, because we're passing this whole object to normalized region, which actually only needs the region string. But it now needs to know about video search queries. And this is something to be really careful about, because if normalized region knows about this object, it means it can accidentally start using other things on the object. You get all sorts of coupling and things that you don't want. So stamp coupling like this is typically a bad idea. And in this case, it's better to just give normalized region the string region, like so. It doesn't need to know about video search queries. In fact, maybe we want to use it in an entirely different concept. Maybe we want to use it for navigation or something and not for video search. And then if you pass it a video search query, that's going to be really annoying to use. So the parameter object pattern is nice, but don't use it everywhere, but only if the function that you need it for works with that actual concept. And typically this means those are the higher level workflows in your code, like the orchestration work that search videos does. If your function only needs a couple of individual values, just pass those in directly. There's no need for a complicated object. And often that's going to be the case in lower level code, like these simple filter functions or region normalization logic. Now, when you use a parameter object like this, it's likely that you're going to have different branches in your code depending on what is in that particular object. And a nice benefit that you get from this pattern in Python is that you can use structural pattern matching. And in my opinion, that's a really neat feature that you can use alongside this pattern. Let me show you what I mean. So here I have a slightly modified version of our video search code example. As you can see, we still have our search videos function that gets a video search query. And then here I have the build search query function. But what that does is it matches the search object with specific cases. So for example, if we have a search query where it's sorted by views, then we can actually print some log here or do something with that particular query. Or here, if the case is that we are sorted by upload dates, then we're going to do this. And here's another example of how it's being used. So this is a tracking function. And if the region is the Netherlands and we don't include shorts, then we're going to track Dutch long form search. Or in all other cases, we simply have a video search query that's generic, and then we're going to print that. I think this is a really neat way to work with these parameter objects by combining them with structural pattern matching. And this works really well. For example, here I have a video search query for dependency injection, long duration, region US, English language doesn't include shorts. And when I run this, then as you can see, it prints these logs that are determined using structural pattern matching. Now, if I change the region to the Netherlands and I run the same script again, as you can see now, it's tracking Dutch long form search. So pattern matching works really well here, in my opinion. I think this is a lot nicer than that you have a bunch of if statements like if search.region equals the Netherlands and etc. etc. And then you have to do it like that. I think this is nicer because you can simply go through the cases and see what is going on. But I don't know, maybe you prefer the if statements and you don't like structural pattern matching. It's maybe a question of personal taste, but I really like this particular type of implementation. Now, don't introduce a parameter object just so you can do pattern matching, but I do think it's a quite natural feature to use with this pattern. If you enjoyed this video, by the way, give it a like and subscribe to my channel. That lets me know I should make more content like this. The parameter object pattern helps you deal with too many parameters in your functions. And neat thing, you can use structural pattern matching with it as a feature. But use the pattern carefully. It works well in high-level code that uses the entire concept that you introduced. But for lower-level functions, just pass the individual values. It's going to be simpler and more decoupled. And sometimes, instead of introducing a new concept, you just need to split responsibilities better and let your functions do less. But I'd like to hear what you think. Does this pattern make sense to you? Have you used it before? What's your approach for dealing with a function that has many parameters? How do you refactor that? How do you work on that? Let me know in the comments. YouTube thinks you might like this video next. Thanks for watching and see you next time.